commonly said to as the deadliest animal in the Arctic. Despite how peaceful it appears, it can be a big error to underestimate the animal's anger. This creature moves with the greatest ease in conditions where humans could freeze to death. It is related to the brown bear, enjoys preying on seals, and has a keen sense of smell. We are discussing the polar bear, of course. Subscribe to AWZ, and let us know if you enjoy our video. The polar bear is thought to be both the largest extant terrestrial carnivore and the largest extant bear species. The polar bear is the most highly carnivorous bear because it consumes more meat than its closest cousins, the black and grizzly bears, at over 90% of their diet. The Arctic Circle, which is surrounded by the Arctic Ocean and other oceans and lands, is where polar bears can typically be found. The polar bear, sometimes known as the brown bear's sister species, has undergone tremendous evolution to be able to hunt seals, which are its preferred prey, and to walk on snow, ice, and open water. Polar bears spend the majority of their lives on the sea ice of the Arctic Ocean, despite being born on land. This is possibly why polar bears are actually considered to be marine mammals, and their scientific name literally translates to maritime bear. Regarding the polar bear's history and evolution, Constantine John Phipps first described it in 1774 and gave it the scientific name Ursus maritimus, which is Latin meaning maritime bear. Polar bears were previously thought of be a separate species. Yet after extensive research and analysis, it was discovered that the polar bear and brown bear shared startling similarities. After considering a number of scientific names for the polar bear, Phipps finally decided on Ursus maritimus, which was finally used. It was pretty obvious that the evolution of both bears happened to be almost in the same direction, so the theory of their individuality was considered to be false and inaccurate. White bear is another name for the polar bear that has been used historically. Because of the nearby Inuit name Nanook, it is occasionally called the Nanak. As already established, the polar bear may be found mostly in Arctic areas like Greenland, Russia, Alaska, and Newfoundland, Canada and Norway. The polar bears have been able to survive in these places thanks in large part to the little to no human activity that has occurred there. They are discovered to be dispersed unevenly throughout the Arctic. Compared to the south, they are more scarce in the north, such as Canada's James Bay. Regarding their southernmost range, they are primarily found close to the line separating the humid continental climatic zone from the subarctic climate zone. Polar bears frequently float off with the ice because they spend the most of their lives on frozen water. A thorough study of the world's entire polar bear population has not yet been conducted. However, according to an estimate by biologists, there are 20 to 25,000 or 22 to 31,000 polar bears in the world. There are 19 groups or subpopulations that make up the entire polar bear population. Canada has 60% of the subpopulations. Of these 19 species, 1 is on the verge of extinction, 2 have been growing quickly, 7 are said to be stationary, and 9 as of 2017 lack sufficient data. As previously noted, seals are the polar bear's favorite prey or meal. Mostly due to the fact that seals are the most plentiful and easily accessible animal in the polar bear's habitat. Polar bears frequently hunt by standing motionless by a seal's breathing hole for hours or even days and watching for the seal to surface for air. Seals may easily evade polar bears because they are slippery. Depending on the time of year and other factors affecting hydration, a polar bear may only catch 1 or 2 out of every 10 seals while hunting. Polar bears have evolved to make their own water by metabolizing fats contained in seal blubber because the majority of fresh water is still frozen in ice. Another reason why polar bears depend on sea ice for accessing the seals that are their main source of food as well as for resting and reproducing throughout the year is due to weather and climatic variations. Polar bears follow seals when they migrate to new locations in order to not miss out on their food sources. In addition to seals, polar bears consume reindeer, birds, mice, plants, berries, roots, and occasionally, other polar bears. A polar bear's very well-developed sense of smell, which allows it to detect seals up to 1.6 kilometers away or buried under 1 meter of snow, is one of its most distinctive characteristics. Its vision and hearing abilities are comparable to those of a human. Polar bears are also excellent swimmers. Polar bears frequently seen swimming between Greenland and Iceland. In order to reach ice distant from land, one bear swam non-stop for 9 days in the icy Bering Sea. The typical polar bear has a maximum running speed of 40 km per hour, a maximum swimming speed of 10 km per hour, and a maximum walking pace of 5.6 km per hour. The polar bears are lonely creatures who prefer to lead quiet lives. Typically during April and May is the start of the mating season. The male and female bears remain together and are thought to mate repeatedly for a whole week. The woman puts on a lot of weight and carries the pregnancy for almost 4 to 6 months. According to estimates, the cubs typically have blindness at birth and weigh less than 0.9 kilos. Typically, each litter has 2 cubs. A typical adult male polar bear weighs between 350 and 700 kilograms and is between 2.4 and 3 meters long. In contrast, adult female polar bears weigh considerably less than their male counterparts. They weigh between 150 and 250 kilos and are between 1.8 and 2.4 meters long. However, pregnant women can weigh up to 500 kilograms when they get pregnant. The biggest polar bear ever seen by humans was a male that weighed about 1,002 kilos. It was captured in 1960 in Alaska. The size of this bear was 3.39 meters. The polar bear, in instance, is thought to have the shortest tail of any bear, reaching only 7 to 13 millimeters. Only if we were to contrast the structure of a polar bear with that of its closest relative, the brown bear, would we notice that polar bears have a much more elongated body build, a longer skull and nose, relatively smaller ears and tails, and feet that are wider and larger in order to facilitate treading on snow or thin ice. The bear can walk more naturally and distribute its body weight more evenly because to the increased surface area of its feet. The feet also aid the polar bear's swimming by effectively propelling it forward. Adult polar bears have feet that are roughly 30 centimeters, 12 inches, broad. The dense padding of dermal bumps on the paws acts as a grip when walking on ice, and the claws are formed of the same materials that enable polar bears to grasp ice and prey. Polar bear claws are scoop-shaped from the underside for the same reasons. Scientists and biologists have studied the polar bear in numerous ways and discovered that, on average, polar bears have more damage to their right limbs than their left ones. This indicates that most polar bears are likely right-handed. Its 42 teeth are sufficiently keen to hunt down prey to feed his carnivorous diet. Compared to brown bears, the polar bear's cheek-side teeth are smaller and have rougher points. Additionally, the canines are larger and sharper. The polar bear's fur is made up of numerous layers. These layers consist of an underfur that is dense and a guard hair layer on top. These layers frequently have the appearance of being white or tan, but they are actually translucent. The polar bear's guard hair is uniformly distributed between 5 and 15 millimeters all over its body. It should come as no surprise that a polar bear has white fur, but a lesser-known fact is that age causes the color to change from white to yellow. Polar bears have a 25-year life expectancy on average. Hunting, pollution, climate change, and human development are just a few of the factors that have contributed to the global decline in polar bear populations. Although the exact number of polar bears on Earth is unknown, as of 2015, the IUCN listed the species as being in the vulnerable section. To learn more about the underlying factors contributing to their population decline, scientists have been attempting to study their habitat. While polar bears may have fur that is whiter than milk, fluffier than a life-size teddy bear, and an undying love for ice. However, they remain a formidable beast to respect. Let us know what you think in the comments.